All right. Hi, I am Edoardo Costa of the Ivory Tower project, and I have recently translated the a part of the Quindecim Stellis, which is a manuscript, an old manuscript by Hermes, supposedly by Hermes. Yeah, this will be I guess 4 or 5 parts video series where I basically go through the slides, the PDF slides that I have made with the material that I have translated up until now of the Quindecim Stellis. This is based on a manuscript which I have found. It's actually a funny story how I found it. It involves Hermes. Yeah, I guess I will explain maybe in a future video. So these slides are the same slides that I have presented at the Astromagia conference. However, these slides are the updated slides, and there is more material, there is more stuff in it. I have corrected some points. I have, enhanced some translations. So I'm still completing the whole translation project, but these videos will be a way to share what I have found up until now, and yeah, to share it with the community, So without any further ado, I will share the screen. Here we go. Ta-da. So these are the slides. Rediscovering Hermes's Liber Hermetis Philosophi up. De Quindecim Stellis, Quindecim Lapidibus, Quindecim Herbis, et Quindecim Imaginibus. A presentation by yours truly, Edoardo Costa. So this is the whole title of the book. And by the way, I'm going to read every single slide, the content that is in the slides, because I know how confusing it can be to just, post a slide with so much content in it, and then maybe the lecturer goes on a tangent and doesn't actually read the text. So you're caught in between reading the text and listening to the speaker, and then you get confused. Just listen to me. I will read the contents of the slides, and then maybe I will talk about it, and I will give you the behind the scenes on it. Yeah, so let's start. So let me just hide. All right. I had to hide the panel of the Zoom application on top of it because I couldn't see some of the text in the slide. So who am I? I'm just Edoardo Costa. Among other things, I study astrology. I practice astrological magic, and I recently created the Ivory Tower project, where I share my thoughts and insights and sell astrological talismans and provide other magical services such as rituals, consultations, etc., etc. After consulting some Latin manuscripts of Agrippa's 3 books and discovering some mistranslations and omissions, my curiosity was sparked. I had to understand what was going on and what the author originally wrote. Shortly after that, though, I discovered the work of Eric Purdue, so I abandoned the 3 books, and so I shifted my attention to some controversial translations of the Quindecim Stellis. I ended up going to the source, so to speak, and started translating one of its Latin manuscripts into English. Consulting lapidaries and herbals became a necessity, so I started to integrate in the translation the knowledge that I found in them, along with other sources. Now I'm working on a document based on the Quindecim, but obviously with much more content. As I said before, these slides present some selected highlights from the actual document, which I'm still working on. This is a sneak peek, which is meant to share the stuff that I've translated and discovered up until now. So yeah, this whole thing started with me consulting the three books, a Latin manuscript of the three books. And I was like, oh my God, this is not there. Oh my God, this is mistranslated. Oh my God, this is not, they've omitted this part. So I got curious. I felt like, you know, some weird occult researcher translating manuscripts of old. And I thought I had discovered something interesting, but then of course um, I saw that Eric Purdue basically was doing the same thing. So I was, oh, okay, all right. What about the Quindecim Stellis? Hey guys, do you guys have the original manuscript of the Quindecim? No, I don't. All right. Then I went in some other groups. I asked, nobody had it. So I was like, all right, so how do we know that what is written in the Quindecim is actually true? Is actually that same translation, which is, you know, right, I guess, faithful to the original. So I looked for it. After a while, I actually I looked for it for days, and then I found online a transcription, which was just a transcription of the first two parts, the parts on the stars and the part on the stones, as I will tell you later. And I've started to work on it using that. And just by looking at that, I uncovered many curious things. But yeah, more on this later. Now, important, I'm not an expert, I'm an amateur. This is a work in progress. This is not over. As I said, I'm still translating this manuscript. And as a matter of fact, I have many different manuscripts right now of the same Quindecim Stellis. So, and on top of that, I'm adding, you know, Lapidary's lore, Herbal's lore. I'm uniting different sources, so it's a pretty big effort, and I'm very lazy. So yeah, it's gonna take some time. Yeah, but Latin is similar to Italian, so it was arguably easier for me to translate as compared to somebody whose mother tongue is not Italian, meaning English, but it wasn't easy. My translation may contain errors, but it should mostly be correct, again, because I'm Italian, so Italian is like Latin 2.0. So it's very similar for some things, some others not so. But yeah, I have found that it has been an easier, I guess, effort than, you know, maybe somebody that is not Italian or doesn't have a language which is similar to Latin and tries to do the same. But yeah, I guess also the devotionals to Mercury have paid off, and my learning of Latin has been mostly very interesting, um, fascinating, and easy. Actually easy, but time consuming though. But anyway, so expert translators wanting to review my work are more than welcome. If you are an expert translator and you want to help, please contact me either through Facebook, Telegram, or through the means I will give at the end of these slides. At the end of these videos, I will show you the last slide with all my contact info. I have a Telegram group. I have a Facebook page, which is the Ivory Tower. I have a BitChute account, which is the Ivory Tower official. I have a YouTube channel, which is the Ivory Tower. I will, however, provide links to these slides so you can download them. And as I said, the last slide has contacts that you can click. These are hyperlinks, so you can click on them, very easy. And you can contact me there, either if you want to tell me that I am a dickhead or that you liked my translation, or that my translation is shit, I'm okay with it anyway. Any sort of feedback you want to give me, I'm perfectly fine with it. And if you spot any mistranslations or you have constructive criticism, please do contact me, and I will be grateful. So yeah, if you spot errors or if you'd like to help me, every little bit of help is greatly appreciated. This is a work of love, yeah, made available for free to recover this knowledge and share it with the world. Because as I said, finding this manuscript was not easy, and the actual Quindecim Stellis, the long version, was not immediately available, so I had to look for it for quite a while. So even less so the translation. I don't think there are translations around which are easily accessible of the original Quindecim Stellis. Oh my God, I don't know if it's the original, but I mean the long version, because the actual Quindecim Stellis that we know of today, right now in this period of time in the community of astrological magic, is actually a list of the 15 stars, which is very synthetic. It's just, you know, a 5-column, 3 pages manuscript with basically just a list of stars, stones, herbs, and some of the effects of the stars and their talismans. So you can use these slides and share the information contained herein freely, of course, but please mention the source. Thanks. So what we'll cover today here. We will cover some of the errors in the Greer translation of the 3 pages manuscript called Book of Enoch, originally by Joan Evans, which is the 15 Behanian fixed stars 5 columns manuscript that summarizes the contents of and is commonly referred to as the Quindecim Stellis, which is available here on Christopher Warnock's website, renaissanceastrology.com / Hermes fixed stars. This is what we commonly refer today as the Quindecim Stellis. This work I'm doing, however, takes into consideration the some Latin manuscripts of the long Quindecim Stellis. I'm going to go into this here. So we will cover also their corrections, meaning the corrections of the errors in the Greek translation of this Book of Enoch, which we know of today as the Quindecim Stellis. We will cover their translations based on the Latin original 3 pages manuscript of this so-called Book of Enoch, as reported in Appendix G of Evans' Magical Jewels of the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, particularly in England. And this is a transcription of the Bodleian manuscript E Museo 52. This is foils, I guess. I don't remember exactly what foils stands for, but anyway, from page 44 to 47. So the corrections of these 3 pages manuscript are also based on a Latin manuscript of the bigger 18 pages version of the Quindecim Stellis, which is available here. This is the website of the Unicastel, which is a German, I guess, university, which digitized this extended version. If you click here, this is the extended, so to speak, version written discursively with extensive information on the 15 Behanian fixed stars, such as their corresponding natures, stones, herbs, images, their virtues, and other astrological knowledge. According to the foreword, it should be dated around the first half of the 16th century, so 1530 or something. However, this is a compilation of many different texts. So we know that it was copied around that time. However, the actual Quindecim Stellis is a manuscript which comes from Greece and then we have the Arabic copy with commentary by Mashallah. I guess it was Mashallah, yes. And what we have today are the Latin translations of this Arabic copy with commentary. So we are translating the Latin copy of the Arabic copy of the original Greek, which has now been lost, at least that we know of. So I've also integrated some information from a Latin manuscript of Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy, Culpeper's Complete Herbal, Evans' Magical Jewels, and other sources such as Gower's Confessio Amantis, when possible, and also others. And then we will cover other knowledge snippets found inside this extended, digitized version of the Quindecim Stellis. We'll compare these knowledge snippets to the experiences of the community, and we'll explore the implications that follow from this comparison. What do I mean by this? I mean that if we have time, and I guess we will, I will, freestyle with, what I have found in the community. I will maybe, I don't know, cite some experiences of the community, what they mean operatively wise, meaning that there are people that have done things that should not have been possible, but they did and they had effects. We will compare these with the knowledge that we have coming from the actual Quindecim Stellis. And yeah, we will infer implications from all these data points, basically, to get to the essence and see what's going on, basically. So yeah, let's start with Aldebaran. So if you are in the astrological magic community, I have been for very little time, maybe, I don't know, a couple of years, maybe even less, but I devoured all the content that was available. And I've read many experiences from people, and one of the controversies that we had, and I don't know, maybe we will still have, was that Aldebaran Regulus had 2 stones, one for each, and the one for Aldebaran was the ruby, but it was contested because some said that it was a different stone. And for Regulus, actually, there was a controversy regarding the garnet as its proper stone, and people basically said that it wasn't garnet, that it was a mistranslation, but it was granite. And granite is, has some points as to its validity as a semi-precious stone, because it was used in antiquity for decoration purposes. But I don't know, it always looked, it always seemed weird to me that granite could have been the stone of a star, especially because all the others are very, much bright, translucent, lucid. I don't know. They look more like precious stones than marble, basically, which is granite. So yeah, I will continue with Aldebaran for now, and then we'll switch to Regulus. We will jump in the order of the the stars to address this controversy, and then yeah, we will see why I think that Regulus stone is indeed garnet and not granite, and Aldebaran stone is indeed ruby. So yeah, let's start with Aldebaran. So in these slides, there will be the Latin original that I have found in the Quindecim. And then the translation. Of course, I will not read the Latin part. If you want, you can pause the video and read it. I will read the translation and then what is written in the rest of the slide. And then, as I said before, maybe I will freestyle on the reasonings behind the translation. So the translation of, of Aldebaran, actually this is from the Lapidibus section, so the section on stones, so it's talking about the ruby. So it says, Hermes said, the first of the 15 stones is called ruby, which some call carbuncle, whose color is like the color of ignited charcoal, and its virtue is to augment riches, and to confer great honor to the bearer. Such stone, in fact, is of the nature of the sun, and its fixed star is Aldebaran. So if we go here, you will see that in many of the slides I have I've added an asterisk to clarify what's written here. So carbuncle has the asterisk here, and the explanation is the Latin word carbunculus, of which carbunculum is the accusative, comes from carbo, which means charcoal in Latin, and literally means small piece of charcoal, carbunculus. So if you look at the ruby, it really resembles the color. In color, it really resembles the color of ignited charcoals, exactly like Hermes is saying here. So there is a note here, according to some sources I wrote, like the Glossarium Mediae et Infime Latinitatis, granatus, that is garnet, as we will see later, is also translated as carbunculus. However, we clearly see here that Hermes is referring to ruby, meaning that Hermes here leaves no place for misinterpretation. Hermes, in the section of the Quindecim Stellis related to the stone of Aldebaran, is saying that the first of the 15 stones is called ruby, and that's it, which some call carbuncle. And if you look at the Book of Enoch, it says ruby or carbuncle, but it's not either ruby or the other thing, which is carbuncle. It's ruby or carbuncle. And here Hermes is clarifying this concept by saying explicitly ruby, which some call carbuncle. So it's just talking about ruby, at least here in the Quindecim Stellis. And yeah, we see that carbunculus was probably a general word used to describe red precious and semi-precious stones in general, just like hyacinth, as we will see in the next slides on Aldebaran, and also in the slides of Regulus, as we will see later. So next slide. Aldebaran Agrippan special. What is Anabulla and Matrisilva? So if you look at the 3 books of occult philosophy, in book 1, chapter 32, Agrippa says the third, Aldebaran, has under it, among stones, carbuncle and ruby. Among plants, spurge, which is the genus of Euphorbia, and the honeysuckle. So wait a second, carbuncle and ruby. Agrippa here, sorry, is contradicting what Hermes says. Carbuncle probably here is used to refer to any precious and semi-precious red stones in general. Probably because of the color. Because if you actually look at the Quindecim Stellis lore, there is a section where Hermes talks about the color of the stars and how the color has to be adapted to the planets to see what virtues the fixed stars have, and what natures they have based on the color of based on their color, basically, and how to compare their color to the planet's color. And I guess also due to the correspondence law, also stones and maybe herbs that have a similar color maybe have similar virtues. So, oops. So, what, Edo? Spurge and honeysuckle? Yeah, why? Let's continue. In plant series number 4, manuscript MS 408 by Gerard E. Cheshire, which is available here, it's written: the milky-looking sap causes severe skin reactions and was once used to burn away warts and verrucas. In Middle English, spurge was known as Anabulla, which means many blisters, from the Greek hana, of itch, and the Latin bulla, which means a bubble. Spurges were historically known scientifically as tithi malus or tithi, from the Greek Latin for completely or especially unpleasant, tithu malus. So as you can see here, we have confirmation that tithi malum et Matrisilva, that at least tithi malum means spurge. So we're not looking at the milky thistle, which is the Cardus marianus, which is actually the herb of the Pleiades, according to the Quindecim, probably, although I'm still doing research on this. But it's the spurge, which are the euphorbia plants. So yeah, the Quindecim also mentions Anabulla in the section on the herbs. The Book of Enoch mentions Arnabulla and Arnabulle. Gower, in his Confessio Amantis, mentions Anabulla. So you can see here that the resemblance in the wording used probably confirms that we are talking about the Tithimalum, which was the Anabulla, a very strong plant. I guess Culpeper puts it into the into the hot and dry degree, to the 4th degree, which is like the maximum. Culpeper in the complete herbal, Tithimalus, Esula, etc. Spurge. So we have confirmation from Culpeper that spurge is Tithimalus. Hot and dry in the 4th degree, a dogged purge, better let alone than taken inwardly. Hair anointed with the juice of it will fall off. It kills fish being mixed with anything that they will eat. Outwardly, it cleanses ulcers, takes away freckles, sunburning, and morphine from the face. So today, spurges are called euphorbia. They secrete a milky white sap, which was used as a strong purge, used to also provoke childbirth or to burn warts and verrucas. Some of these plants have reddish, rosy flowers and stalks, just like the light Aldebaran gives off. And you can see a couple of photos here and a couple of pictures also here. When mature, the stalk of some euphorbia species becomes reddish, again, like Aldebaran's light. And you can see here how the stalk becomes very reddish. And these are the sources. And next slide. So what is Matrisilva? Matrisilva, the herb that Agrippa mentions, which is actually not present in the Quindecim Herbis section, because in the Herbis section of the Quindecim Stellis, only Tithimalus, only Arnabulla is mentioned. It's called Madreselva in Portuguese and Madreselva in Italian. And it is the Lonicera caprifolium, which is the honeysuckle. This is also confirmed by the Netherlands Herbarius of Kruitboek. Sorry if I butchered that, which is in the next slide. And it's a Dutch herbarium of the 1800, I guess, of the 1600, I don't remember. And thanks to Pedro Ribeiro and to Jeffrey Kotick, which helped me with this in the Stellar Sorcery Facebook group. They provided the necessary knowledge, and also Jeffrey linked to me this page of this herbarium, in which you can see here written Latin caprifolium matrisilva preclimenum. And you can see here the honeysuckle. So it's basically, it's the honeysuckle. So as you can see here, the honeysuckle has a woody, oh, by the way, the honeysuckle I was writing, that has a woody, sweet aroma, which is reminiscent of Jupiterian and Venusian smells. It is used also for luck and prosperity Jupiterian rituals. Now look at the colors of its flowers, and then think about the light of Aldebaran, for which the star has been usually described at different points in history as the rosy-hued one. Would it be appropriate to assign such a herb to a martial star associated to honors and riches, and that possesses the temperament of, and is located in a constellation of the nature of Venus? Let me answer this for you. Yes, good job, Agrippa. So you can see how the color of the honeysuckle's flower really resembles the light that Aldebaran gives off, and you can see here that the Lonicera caprifolium here is called honeysuckle. I have circled in red here. So yes, honeysuckle is the Lonicera caprifolium, which is the Matrisilva Agrippa talks about in his 3 books. And now let's go to Regulus. So this is a gigantic piece of text. You can know more about this if you go here in this link. This is from the summary of What is Jacinth, a gemologist's point of view by Greenville Millington, which is available here. Of course, I'm gonna, if you want, pause the video and read it all. I will skip to the too long didn't read in the next slide. So basically Gergonsa, which is Occitan for Jacinth or Garnet, which you can see here. As you can see in this dictionary of Occitan, you can see that Gergonsa is translated as Hyacinth, Pierre Précieuse, which is French for, I guess, hyacinth or precious stone. So in antiquity, Jacinth or hyacinth, and therefore the Occitan Gergonsa and jargon or jargon and zircon, weren't used to indicate what we today have classified as the specific zircon, but were used to describe all orange and reddish stones, the great majority of which were garnets, sometimes sardonyx and others. And the sun has gone out, so I am glowing in the dark. So points for garnet. An interesting hypothesis that you can find in the paper that I have just cited is that Gergonsa probably became jargon and then zirconier, which is German, when in the 19th century in Germany, in a lab, the classification of zircon as we know it today was established. Then probably from zirconier, it got distorted into zircon. I know that the auditory resemblance between words is not, the smoking gun for the development of the evolution of different words into something else, but it's still an interesting hypothesis to consider. So, Regulus Part 2, the Great Granati Controversy. Here we are. So, let's see what the Lapidibus section in the Quindecim Stellis says. The 7th stone is called Gergonsa. Some of them, meaning the stones, are red, as if grainy or like grains. And these, therefore, are called grainy, because their color is as the color of the grains of pomegranate. As some of them are very much red, others, however, are of many colors. Its virtue, meaning the stones, is to remove anger and melancholy. It makes men temperate and brings down or bestows good favor to the one carrying it. Such a stone, moreover, descends by or originates from or is under Cor de Leonis, which is the heart of the lion, meaning Regulus, or royal star. And anyone who wants to operate according to it, they should operate when Luna, meaning the moon, would be conjunct with Cor de Leonis. So, this little bit, meaning qui ideo granati dicuntur quia color eorum est ut color granorum mali granati, resolves the controversy, in my opinion, about garnet or granite, because Granite, I guess Granati was the word that was confused for granite. However, let me go to the next slide. Mali granati is Latin and is the genitive of malum granatum, which is literally grained apple. However, it is translated correctly as pomegranate. So mali granati, being the genitive of malum granatum, therefore means of the pomegranate. Therefore, translating this correctly, we can say that Hermes said that these stones, meaning the garnets, are said to be grainy because their color is as the color of the grains of pomegranate. There is no granite here. There is pomegranate. So the genitive is the Latin case for something, and basically is the complement of, oh my God, I don't know how to say it in English, but basically when you have the genitive, it indicates possession. So of the pomegranate, you should say mali granati. If you say pomegranate, it's just malum granatum. If you have to say of the pomegranate in Latin, you would take malum granatum and decline it in the genitive, which is mali granati. So there is no granite here. There is mali granati, which is the genitive of malum granatum, which is the pomegranate, basically. So I guess there was a confusion in the translation. But yeah, Hermes is saying here that the garnets are grainy because they resemble the color of the pomegranate. And if you look at the grains of the pomegranate, they look exactly like polished garnets. They are incredibly similar. They are like, the resemblance is striking, really. In their translucency, in their color, they are nowhere near the ruby. So this is from Evans' Magical Jewels. This is Appendix D from this manuscript here. So this is a screen, and this is describing the virtues of garnet, which is called granatus. So the translation is, the stone garnet is of a most beautiful color, almost similar to a ruby, without impurities of the color. It is like the rose, meaning in color. It is carved in the hardest way because it's very hard. It shines of a reddish glow if the color black is spread underneath to it. It drives away sadness and it makes the spirit cheerful, exactly like Hermes mentioned about the garnet. It is of a certain family which is described as violetish because it has a violet color mixed to red. So same properties described for the Gergonsa Hermes mentioned. So we got here a descriptive, a link in the effects between the granatus and the Gergonsa, which Hermes mentions in the Lapidibus. So probably, I mean, Hermes is describing the Gergonsa as having the same aspects as the garnet. And now we have another lapidary that described basically the same effects for the same stone. So I guess Hermes is talking about the garnet. So garnets very much resemble the grains of pomegranate, as described by Hermes, and they also remove anger and make the spirit cheerful. Rubies, instead, if you go and look to the description of the virtues of the rubies, you can see that Hermes says that they augment riches and honors, which is very different than removing anger and making the spirit cheerful. Sorry. Now, granatum is translated as grained or garnet. And you can also see that in Italian this was preserved because granatum is translated as granato. And it was also used to indicate a carbunculus, which was a reddish semi-precious stones, as we have said earlier. The marble, the actual marble granite, is in Latin granitum and granito in Italian. So if you were to describe granite in Latin, you would say granitum, not mali granati. Granitum is the Latin word for granite. So yeah, Regulus stone is garnet. It's not granite. But anyway, we find further evidence that garnet is indeed the stone associated to Aldebaran by looking at Agrippa, which only mentions garnet for Aldebaran in Book 1, Chapter 32. The seventh is the stone, the seventh is the heart of the lion, has among stones the garnet. Among plants, celandine with artemisia or mugwort or wormwood, and gum mastic. So basically, Agrippa in Book 1, talking about Aldebaran, says that it has among stones the garnet, and that's it. So Agrippa only mentions garnet. So we find confirmation that the stone of Regulus is garnet. Even in Agrippa, it's a further confirmation that, yes, garnet is Regulus' stone. Did I say Aldebaran? I meant Regulus. Therefore, both carbunculus and hyacinth, and its Occitan version, so to speak, Gergonsa or Gorgonza, were words anciently used to describe not a specific stone, but all precious and semi-precious reddish stones in general, comprising what we today identify as sard, ruby, garnet, zircon, etc. Granatus was used to describe the same, probably though excluding rubies, which were identified much more easily due to their characteristic visual traits, resembling, as we said earlier, and as Hermes wrote, ignited charcoals, and for which carbunculus, of course, would therefore have been more appropriate, because, of course, little charcoal is much more striking as a word, as a descriptive word, if you have to identify a ruby, which very much resembles a lit up charcoal. Garnets resemble instead the seeds of pomegranate. So to recap, consequently, if we wanted to follow what Hermes said in the Quindecim, and we wanted to identify the correct stones that correspond to the specific fixed stars, at least according to him, even though this is also supported, as we said, by Agrippa, then ruby corresponds to Aldebaran and its virtues, and garnet to Regulus and its virtues. Note, the two stones, however, can probably be swapped for different effects, or different stones can altogether be used to combine different natural and celestial effects for synergistic purposes. More on this later in the knowledge snippets section number 11, as we will see later. However, this last note is a hypothesis, meaning that I'm not sure about this. I am examining the other manuscripts that people have provided me of the Quindecim Stellis, where this little piece, there is a piece in the Quindecim Stellis where Hermes says that you can rectify the science. However, it is not clear what he means by rectifying, because there are in the section on the stars, the first three stars, Aldebaran, the Pleiades, and Algol, he says in these sections that you can rectify their position by basically shifting their latitude, their longitude and also latitude, because, you know, of the precession of the equinoxes. So he's saying this is their position, however, rectify it, because in your time, chances are that if you're looking at this like centuries later, they will have shifted in the tropical zodiac, so you have to rectify their position. And of course, we know this to be true. But there's another section, as I was saying, that says that you can rectify the science, the magical science, or something like that, by knowing about the stones, by knowing about their images, the herbs, etc. So it is not clear if he's referring to you know, becoming an expert, becoming an adept, and then doing what you want with this science, like swapping stones, herbs to, you know, create different effects, or if he's saying use this book to to rectify your knowledge, because this is the only correct knowledge. And if you are in the wrong road, you can rectify your path, so to speak, by knowing about the stars and their corresponding stones and herbs, and that is it. You cannot swap them. So we have to understand what he meant, and I'm currently trying to translate and understand what he meant, basically. So hopefully in the future videos, I will stop here. In the future videos, I will talk about this when we will get to the knowledge snippets section. For now, I guess this is, oh, no, there's a last one. This is about the image of Aldebaran. So in this manuscript that I have put my hands on, basically the first three figures, meaning the images associated to the first three stars, Aldebaran, the Pleiades, and Algol, seem to be swapped. So if you look at the Imaginibus section, he says for the first image, which should be the one corresponding to Aldebaran, he says the first figure, probably corresponding to Aldebaran, is like a radiant maiden. I'm reporting the original Latin text here. He actually says est ut lampa puella, so is like lampa puella. So lampa was difficult to translate. There is no Latin dictionary. I guess it's a late distortion of maybe lampada, but it's weird because it should be an ablative, but you cannot find an ablative of lampada or lampa. I don't remember, but anyway, it should concord to with puella. So instead of a lamp and a maiden, which is what we are used to hear about the image of the Pleiades, which are two things, a lamp and a maiden, it seems that the author here, either because he was lazy or he didn't understood what he was writing, wrote a radiant maiden, which could be, I don't know, viable. I probably guess that he confused the image with the image of the Pleiades. And I also think that he actually wrote like in a bad way. So I guess you could try to make an Aldebaran image or even a Pleiades image with a radiant maiden, meaning a maiden, with light behind her. Yeah, so probably swapped with the Pleiades, confused with a lamp and a maiden. This is what I wrote because it was weird, to say the least. But then again, this manuscript that I have consulted, this digitized manuscript was basically full of errors here and there. Sometimes you can see that the author wrote something, confusing it with somebody else, with something else. Some other time you can see that he uses some very raw forms of Latin. Sometimes he uses weird words and weird syntax. So translating this has been quite a daunting experience for many things. This is also why I try to go to other sources like the Herbals and the Lapidaries, to cross as many information as I could, and to understand better what sometimes could not have been understood just by looking at this text. And his handwriting, oh my God, his handwriting was daunting. Yeah, so I had to get used to it and learn Latin too. So it was a daunting experience, but very interesting nonetheless. So I guess this is it. Yeah, because we have the Pleiades after that. So this is the end of part 1. I hope you will have enjoyed it. And I will see you for the next part. Now I will, what is this? Oh my God. Oh, apparently I have discovered a new a new function of the PowerPoint presentation, which is the sliding of the slides. Well, they are slides, they do slide. So yeah, anyway, I will close the video now. And thank you for being here. I will see you in the next part. Bye.